included in a group chat about targeting the Houthi rebels in Yemen on a publicly available messaging app. Maybe you have it. It's called Signal. He says the texts among top officials included details about the war plan. Joining us now is J.J. Green, national security correspondent with our news partner, WTOP. J.J., let's listen to an exchange with Senator Mark Warner of Virginia at today's hearing with the country's top intelligence officials, and then talk on the other side.
If this was the case of a military officer or an intelligence officer, and they had this kind of behavior, they would be fired.
All right, so let's pick it up right there. JJ, we know Warner has called for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, the one who set up this group chat, to resign. Right now, it doesn't look like that is even close to happening. What's your take, big picture, on this situation? And I also want to hear from you on this. What is the protocol when it comes to communicating about military operations?
Well, first things first, this is a staggering situation because, you know, every expert that I know and person that I've spoken to about this who's been involved in the national security world for the last, 40, 50 years have told me that they have never seen or heard anything like this. In part because, one, these conversations were being held on a commercially available chat app. There were something like 18 people involved in this. There were discussions about targets, about weapons, about timing. And, you know, that many think is classified. It shouldn't be done on that platform. Then you have people like Steve Witkoff, who is the president's special envoy, I think was in Moscow at the time. There's this question about when you go to a foreign country, you automatically know when you hit their airspace, you're on their telecom system, and they can pretty much peek at your phone and do whatever you want to do. But the big question is, how was the decision made to do this, and why was it okay? You know, and in terms of the protocols here, you know, there's something called JWICS, the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communication System, that is basically the Fort Knox of intelligence and national security communication systems. It was available. Why didn't they use that? And we heard from one of the participants in the hearing that this is something that was loaded on their phone when they took the job, and it was said to be okay. We know that Signal is good. It's end-to-end encrypted, but we know that it's not foolproof. And it's certainly not something on the level of a U.S. national security communication system.
And we also don't know, and correct me if you've learned more on this, whether they were using their own personal devices or government-issued devices.
We don't know. And I would imagine hearing what CIA Director John Ratcliffe said today in the Senate hearing that they were using their personal devices because this device, he said, was loaded with Signal. You know, and I think these personal devices, when I say personal, I mean a device, a device that they carry with them. It might be government issue, but it's still for them. I don't think that they would be using a personal device at pretty much at any time discussing government business, but we don't know. So that's a question that's open. I do know that the National Security Council is investigating it. That's what we heard today from the hearing. And it's not something that, it's not going to be easy for them to do this investigation. It may seem like it, but it's not likely to be easy for them to finish this investigation.
Well, some Republicans are urging there not be an investigation. Do you think that we will get to a deeper understanding of this if there's no investigation?
Well, the National Security Council is already underway with an investigation. So the idea that there won't be is a non-starter. There is already an investigation underway. And the truth of this matter is the White House, I don't think, is very happy about that. And I mean President Trump himself, because he said Mike Waltz has learned his lesson. And he said he's a good man, but he learned his lesson. And from what I'm hearing from a variety of sources is there's some frustration inside the White House, even though they have rallied the troops and come to National Security Advisor Walter's defense in this. And, all of the folks that we've heard from have said this was not classified. So at some point, we may end up understanding more of this. If it's not classified, they may end up releasing this transcript or the text of what took place. Either way, it's not good because the fact that it took place on this platform and a reporter was in the room and no one knew it. No one recognized that. That's not going to go away.
Yeah, we heard some of that back and forth about whether it's classified or sensitive information, and Senator Warner calling for the text messages to be released. What are our allies saying about all of this? Is it likely that they'll be more reluctant to release top secret information, knowing that this potentially could be how it's handled?
Well, in terms of what took place here, I think they learned a big lesson from that, and I think the president said that. So I think the way in which they handle business heretofore is going to be done differently. I mean, look, people can say what they want to say, but there are a lot of questions out there about end-to-end encryption apps, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Telegram, or whether it's Signal. Signal is said to be the best and most secure, but again, there's nothing as good as the systems that are available to them at the White House and in the national security apparatus. So I think what they're probably going to have to go back to is to think about what they're discussing, where they're discussing it, when they're discussing it, and who they're discussing it with. The bottom line, again, is nobody noticed this reporter in the room, even though this reporter was invited, and perhaps somebody should have. But this is a moment for this White House that most likely will not be forgotten anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that reporter had the ethics not to release the information that he was privy to through that text chain. JJ Green, national security correspondent with our news partner at WTOP, thank you for joining us.
Thank you again for having me.